It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show on your screens tonight. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show for your home delight. We're talking about Age of Sigmar and anything else that is cool. Talking about Warhammer Fantasy, it's easy to learn the rules. Andy and Remington, Andy and Remington, Andy and Remington Show.
Welcome one and all, it's time for yet another episode of the Andy and Rem Show. This time we have episode 221, and it is the financial special brought to you by Remington Industries. Of course, the legendary stonk self-made millionaire by now, surely?
That's correct. I just need to underpin this episode with the fact that I'm not a financial advisor, and anyone daring to invest does so at their own risk with money they can afford to lose. Here is my passport, just in case I need it to make a quick getaway. If people come and get us.
In case anyone makes any investments based solely on the advice distributed on this show.
Actually, no. Based on the magnificent truths we've uncovered, the things that we will reveal in this show, I promise you, dear friends, dear audience, and indeed you, Andy, it will blow your socks off. Interesting stuff, ish. My purpose as well is to not bore you to death, of course, because look, I've got the attention span of a goat.
Yeah, we still have the footage of you falling asleep live on the show.
Yeah, but you know, if I'll pick out the highlights, I think it might be interesting to delve into the company behind the hobby or hobbies that we all know and love, and maybe we could, we could learn a thing or two. I've left my water outside. Damn it.
Well,
anyway, how are you, Andy?
I'm pretty well, actually, and I'm afraid that we've been rumbled already, you know. Sean says, when you're low on content ideas and need to fill out a show.
What? This is like the best content ever. How to become a millionaire.
Well,
anyway,
we'll see about that. So, packed house in the audience, as always, slowly filling up at a slightly earlier time than usual, so we'll see if we manage to reach the lofty heights of previous episodes. And I don't know if anyone can see down there, but we've got some very fancy high-tech scrolling text now, with all kinds of useful information, news, headlines, social media nonsense going on down there.
Wow, and Andy, it looks so clean and professional, man. How did you...
I've picked only the finest fonts for this. And you can see in the bottom left there, every week there's going to be a different piece of merch featured. And for anyone that had a look at the merch when it was first released, a couple of the prices on the larger items have been brought down a bit because they were a bit on the obscene side. I think the Andy and Rem Show bedspread was definitely into too many figures for people's wallets, I think. And I believe Mr. Rem's gone to get his water that he left outside recklessly. So, while he's gone, let's see what we've got going on in the chat. Sean says, stay hydrated. Somebody named Remington earlier on was telling everyone,
sorry about that.
Get ready. So, and Sean, we're not sure if we're going to hit up Twitch as well. That might be a step too far. I don't really like Twitch that much. But you never know, because there is good money to be made in the world of Twitch. Oftentimes I see, if I'm ever watching Twitch, whoever's streaming, whatever they're doing, it's just piles of cash just fly at them left and right. So that could be the way to go. So, speaking of piles of cash flying left and right, should we start off with this quick look at Blood Bowl? Because we were pondering whether to get into Blood Bowl or Necromunda as our small-ish GW game that seems like it's small, but really you need 87 different books, so it's not that small after all. But we chose Necromunda, and I'm glad we did, because if we just bought Blood Bowl rulebooks, then we'd be kind of dismayed at the new edition that's just slowly appearing over the horizon. And on the Warhammer community, they've got some fancy pants new pictures of it here. And look at that, all the mustache action going on in the human team. And Mr.
Wow.
Rem, you were saying that you're a big fan of the humans.
I've literally just seen them 5 minutes ago, and they are going to fit in beautifully to my, Empire, Free People, Cities of Sigmar, you know, army, whatever you call it. I haven't seen the orcs properly yet, but tell me, Andy, what does a new season of Blood Bowl entail? What is it? Is it new rules or
I'm
what?
pretty
What
sure
is it?
it just entails a new rule book and a slightly tweaked rule set, according to this that I've read here. And you can see some of the humans, but this guy's obviously the star of the show. Riff Oberwald, who's been featured before in the game, but now he's got his eagle bird with him, and it's got medals around its neck. If anything summed up the kind of over-the-top fantasy world of Blood Bowl, that would be it, definitely.
I love it how they've got the Forge World vibe of the Marienburg figures that they made. But what would you replace the ball with if you were having this guy in your fantasy army, Andy?
Maybe the head of a hammer or something.
Or a head of an orc?
Yeah, you could just put the head of an orc there, but if you wanted to have a weapon that wasn't just an eagle, then you could have him just supporting the weapon in his hand. Is that what you're thinking, getting some of these and using them in your Free People?
I am. I'm thinking that would be pretty awesome.
Brad says those humans are awesome looking. I'm assuming he's talking about the hosts of this show rather than the Blood Bowl team.
Well, I said that about the ogres, but I never ended up buying them. I never put them in my ogre army. I've got too many. So, but these two are cool. So you get humans and you get orcs. An orc team, right?
So they've actually got a video embedded on the website. Let's see if I can actually start this playing. Let's get it muted. So I don't have to hear that.
Will we hear it?
No, you won't.
Okay.
Because I've muted it, because I don't want us to get this video stricken from the records. Let's scan through it a bit, see if they've got anything fun. There you go, some quick looks at the miniatures there.
Oh, I like that guy. Bit chubby. You like it?
Very fancy
He looks
looking.
too old. He's too old to be playing Blood Bowl, that guy.
Well, I think this team specifically are Imperial noblemen. So presumably they're kind of bored with life. They live such a lifestyle of excess and extravagance that they've decided, you know what, it's time to do something fun. Let's go down, maybe get ourselves squashed to death by an orc, or have a snotling, like chop our big toe off. But let's have a bit of a good time before the inevitable happens and we just die slowly in bed surrounded by fruit. I assume that's how they...
What else do you get in this box? Do you get a pitch?
I would assume you get the pitch, you get dice, whatever else is necessary to play the game. Although, you don't know that for a fact, that you get everything you'd want to play the game. Because you might get what you need to use the teams that are specifically in it. You might then have a separate book that comes out for some of the teams that could come later. They do like selling you the additional products on top of what you've already bought.
So, like the Rolling Stones say, you get what you don't get what you want. You get what you need.
Let's go with that. Stu says stick some swords and shields in their hands and they'd make some great free guild veterans. They would definitely be veterans anyway, wouldn't they?
Yeah. I don't know. Why did they put orcs in there? Why didn't they put snotlings? That would have been funny, wouldn't it?
Well, there is a snotling team.
Where? I know. We've talked about it on the show, but where are they? They're not in the shops yet, are they?
I haven't seen them in the shops.
Yeah. The Blood Bowl magazine features the snotlings, doesn't it, this month?
We'll keep all of our eyes firmly peeled for juicy snotling content over the next months then, and then we'll bring that to you red hot and spicy as soon as it hits.
So what do you think? Is this a buy? Is it a buy, Andy?
Well, if someone was going to buy into Blood Bowl, presumably now would be a good time, or when this hits would be a good time. Because you're pretty safe for the rules being replaced for at least a couple of years, aren't you? Any kind of GW system you want to jump into, ideally you want to have some models ready for launch. Because if you spend the first year of its release building and painting an army, then you're cutting it a bit fine then, and you're thinking that your rules are going to get totally replaced. If you've already got something ready to roll, then it should be pretty good if you're jumping in right at the start.
I'm just reading the stuff at the bottom. RemCon postponed. Remington Industries stock price plummets.
Yeah, we've got an up-to-date news feed down there that's being fed through from the Wargaming News Centre.
How very dare you? This is like fake news, man. This is, yeah.
Anything you
Oh,
see
no.
down in that scrolling text box, you can take to the bank.
Talking of taking to the bank, Andy, is it time yet? Is there any more news? There's not much Warhammer Age of Sigmar stuff, is there?
Not that I've seen, but there is.
It's all
Financial
40K.
charts, graphs, pie charts, bar charts. What more could you possibly ask for? When you want exciting wargaming content, what do you think? I immediately think charts, facts, figures, finances.
Well, guys, you thought I'd be talking you to death, right? With loads of facts, figures, and stuff. Instead, I've given you a visual, right? A visual spectacular here.
A visual feast.
Yes, in sort of PowerPoint form. I think it's like, I'm a visual learner. If something's in red, right, we'll go to basics. If something's in red, it's pretty bad. If something's in green, it means Wonga. It means cash. That's not a 1 on the Remington dice, okay? So let's have a look. 1 year return. What does this all mean, Andy? What do you think that means there, Andy? 1 year return.
Well, I think that's your department as the financial expert.
Yes, but I'm training you here. Okay, look.
You spell it out, and then I'll give you my expert analysis of the data you've provided.
Okay. Well, look, a 1 year return means if you bought a share of, you bought 1 share in Games Workshop, on average, you would get 100% return. GAW is the ticker symbol for Games Workshop, okay? So when you see that ticker flying across, it's just a shorter way of remembering the name of the company. So, yeah, within one year, you're likely to get, based on its previous track record, you're looking at getting 100% return compared to other industries in the Great British leisure market. Because Games Workshop comes under leisure, the leisure industry. Did you know that?
I did know.
Yes. And you can see that red thing. That's the general market. The general market is the Great British market is 12% down. I wonder why that is.
Wonder what could have contributed to that? Which worldwide factors have been at play lately?
Well, look, guys, some people are talking about maths in the comments there. I was so crap at maths. Trust me, man. I used to spend the time winding up a guy called Gary Sanders by stealing his pencil and hiding it around the class. That's basically what I remember about maths. So I've had to kind of train myself in this. Next slide, please.
Very well.
Still background there. You're not going to get this quality. Hello, Void Captain Bazooka.
This is like a PowerPoint presentation in a boardroom, isn't it? Look at these shareholder returns.
I know. Isn't that good? And shareholder returns over 7 days, 30 days. None of this is an exact science, of course. Anything could happen. There could be a worldwide pandemic, Games Workshop could get a bad piece of news. They might miss some kind of deadline, or they might launch a new 40K version and a new box set called Indomitus, which sets the stock market on fire because it sells so well, and GW make a lot of money in that particular quarter. When we refer to quarters, we mean 4 quarters in a year, right? 4 seasons.
Yeah, most things do have 4 quarters in them.
Yeah, I smoked too much of that wacky-backy tobacco to understand this, says Sean. Well, hang in there, pal. It's going to get even more trippy, my friend.
Stay on board for the ride. Keep your arms and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because it's going to be a bumpy financial ride.
But you say bumpy ride, but let's look at just that first line. Shareholder returns over 7 days. You can see that the general market is minus 0.7% down, but Games Workshop is 10% up, right? That's pretty amazing. So Games Workshop has been a steady ship with no holes in it, and I'm going to go into more detail in why. Uh, it's been a steady ship throughout this pandemic. Been amazing, really. I mean, who would have thought plastic toys, right?
Yeah, and
Would
even
be
the whole industry is pretty up, but then Games Workshop are almost like twice the performance of the overall industry as well.
pretty incredible. Look, I mean, look, you might be thinking, oh, you guys are like Games Workshop fanboys, la da 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 da. Well, bear in mind, I spent years going into my local shop with naysayers when Age of Sigmar came out. Naysayers saying, "Yeah, Games Workshop's finished, it's over," and they really didn't know what they're talking about. So what we're telling you here is actual facts. It is not Remington, overstating stuff. I'm literally taking the figures off their legal financial report, which is open to the public to view and to scrutinise. So anyway, next up.
Speaking of facts, by the way, anyone who knows what else features in the leisure industry, then let us know so we can figure out exactly what Games Workshop is competing against in all these stats. That would be helpful.
Nice, Andy. Nice. Out of the box thinking there. I like it.
So, last 1 year earnings growth.
Now, a success of a company is not based on just how well it's done in the past, but how well it's going to do in the future, right? So, any one company might have a great season or a great quarter, but things could look horrible in the future for various reasons. However, Games Workshop, its earnings growth is getting bigger and bigger each year, whereas the general industry of leisure in the UK, at least, is going down in the last year. Interesting. It's a growing company.
So the industry of leisure, you can understand why that would take a bit of a downturn. There'll be people out. Well, actually, because you may think there could be some balancing out, because overall you would think people would have slightly less disposable income during the last few months, particularly. But also, there's a lot of people who have more free time on their hands lately as well. So,
And talking of free time, Andy, and the leisure industry, computer gaming, right, comes under the leisure industry, and companies like Activision Blizzard, right, are skyrocketing at me. They're doing very, very well. Of course, the big tech companies as well. When I say that, we're talking Facebook, we're talking Amazon, we're talking Google, and we're talking Netflix. These are the biggest industries, what some of the biggest industries in the world at the minute, that are pushing the market to make it look like it's not in a crash, whereas most other companies are doing badly. Those four companies in particular are holding up the whole market. So yeah, Games Workshop is really under the radar compared to these Goliaths in the industry. These are almost, some of these, like Amazon's almost like $1 trillion industry, right?
it's hard to judge sometimes on that, because when someone says, well, the economy is doing really well, what does that actually mean? Because if you break it down, who is that actually good for? And you tend to find out that it's good for an increasingly small number of people. So if you want to find out the truth of the matter, you have to get down there in the trenches, get a bit dirty, and find out which of the companies specifically are doing all right and who is benefiting.
You do, Andy, and do you know, I love the point you've made there, because the actual a lot of people think, oh yeah, those rich guys that can afford to have shares and la da da da. Well, that whole world is changing, and the reason why is because of the pension crisis. Now, this is a whole different topic. I could talk for hours on this, but basically,
We'll do a pension special next week.
do a pension special. Basically, we're screwed. If you're, 40 or 50 or under, you're pretty much screwed, and your pension is in no way guaranteed. So you've got to find other ways of earning a living when you retire, and that is called passive income. And how do you do that when interest rates are looking at 0% or 0.5% or minus 0.5%? That means if you've got money in the bank, it is losing over time. You're not gaining. If you hid away all your savings under a bed, in 10 years' time, it would be worth, well, if inflation is about 2.5% a year, you'd be, losing 10, 15% over a decade. So what can you do? How can you earn a living? How can you keep your hobbies going, right? So you don't have to have a crummy job. You don't have to maybe work in a supermarket when you retire. You maybe want to be doing hobby stuff, right? Well, the only way open to you really is to invest what you can yourself. Now, I've been doing this for 8 months now, and I've been competing against a pension scheme through my work. My pension scheme is minus 2% at the moment. So my returns from my pension are minus 2%. That is unbelievable. Why am I even paying them anything? But my returns from investing in my stock market are plus 22%. There you go. I'm beating the hedge funds. Next slide, please.
Very well. Here's the next slide. Past earnings growth analysis. Past 5 years annual earnings growth. Look at all these charts. This is a bar chart, folks. You can't get much more exciting than that, except obviously the pie chart, which is my personal favourite.
Well, this didn't take long to explain. You can see that Games Workshop in the blue there, the blue of Leicester City, even though it's in Nottingham, is clearly beating the market over the last 5 years and beating the leisure industry. Amazing. Who would have thought plastic toys are beating some gaming companies? But, I say leisure industries, that could be things like sports clubs as well, couldn't it, I suppose? Right?
By the way, in the chat, Annie says that she's definitely in for the pension special, although she's not expecting to live long enough to get one.
Well, I'm glad you said that, Annie, and hello, we'll miss you. I never thought about pensions, ever. I never thought about it. It was something that old folk did. And then suddenly I got to an age where it was like, hold on a minute, I'm closer to retirement than I am to being a kid, right? And I don't really want to work where I'm working for the rest of my life, maybe. So what am I going to do? I don't know. So that started this journey. Anyway, an awakening, you might call it. I am woke. The world's going to end before this, Remington.
Well, let's go on to the next one. Now, it's not quite a pie chart, but what would you call this chart here, Mr. Remington, in your expertise? Return on equity. It's kind of round, it's got pie elements to it, but it's not a full pie. It's more like a crust chart, I'm going to call it, if it doesn't have a real name.
Well, so equity is a part of a company that you buy. It's something that you own. So if you buy a share, if I buy a share in Games Workshop, I partly own it. So that's my equity. And I'm looking for that equity to grow. Okay. I don't want the equity to lose value, or what's the point in buying it, right? So what's the return on my equity? Well, it's at 53% there, which is pretty good.
Very well.
So it's hitting the green, and green is good, red is bad.
Next, we've got some. This isn't really a chart at all. It's just like some bullet points.
This is bullet points. This is probably the most important slide of them all, and it's a slide I think we should all live our lives by. Okay, yes, green is good, red is bad, but the companies that are surviving this pandemic, okay, in any industry, right, are the companies that have the least amount of debt, because debt gets you into real trouble, right? Borrowing money is bad. Credit card debt is bad. And a company, right, that has lots of debt and suddenly can't operate for a number of months due to a pandemic, let's say, cannot pay its debts and therefore is likely to go bankrupt and go into receivership. Okay. Now, when I invested into Games Workshop, I looked very carefully at this and I realized Games Workshop doesn't have any debt at all. So it's completely debt free, which is phenomenal because most companies need to borrow to be able to grow, right? So, yeah, that is phenomenal. But it means they've built what's known as a moat around their castle. You like that analogy? Good with the gaming, right?
Yes.
They built a moat. It means that the competition can't get close to Games Workshop. There's many companies making models, making tabletop games, but you'd have to agree, no one is as big or nearly as big as Games Workshop, right? Plus the fact they are growing, plus the fact they are debt free, okay, it means this is a very, very strong company.
So, green good, red bad. We've got the new Remington Industries t-shirt there. Okay,
Are you enjoying this financial lesson, Andy?
it's very educational. However,
Fantastic. Let's get into the juicy stuff now, shall we?
board members, you can see the individual board members and how much money they are making. So,
How about this, guys? This is brilliant. And look, maybe you can help me out, Andy, or you guys in the chat can help me out. I cannot find a picture of the CEO of Games Workshop, the guy that's running Games Workshop. I can't find his picture. I don't know what he looks like. I'd love to meet the guy. He's done a phenomenal job. I'm surprised he's not been headhunted by other companies. This guy gets paid less than most other CEOs, right? Chief Executive Officer, boss. He gets paid less than most people in other industries, okay, or similar industries in his kind. Yeah, he loves Games Workshop, and it really shows. So yeah, he's the boss man, and the next in charge, or the next pay grade is Rachel Tong. Nicholas Donaldson is the independent non-executive chairman. What does that mean, do you think? That means he's not running the day-to-day things?
interesting. Sounds like kind of like a fancy way of saying he doesn't do anything, if you ask me.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, you can see their pays there. So that's nearly £750,000 a year for Kevin Roundtree. Bear in mind, Games Workshop is a £1 billion industry. After its last financial report, it's a £1 billion industry based on its market share, based on the value of all its shares and the current share value put together. That's the market share, right? And you think that's a decent salary, but let me tell you, that's nowhere near as big as other companies that are currently failing.
Yeah, there are some in the whole computer game industry. There are some of those big CEOs that are earning into the tens of millions that I see reported on regularly. People are outraged at the amount of money they're raking in while they're letting go of hundreds or thousands of employees at the time.
Yeah,
But definitely Games Workshop not quite at that level when it comes to disparity. It's still huge, obviously, and I'm pretty sure any human could live on the lowest number on this list. But it's nice to see that the gap isn't quite as ridiculously vast as some of the other CEOs in the entertainment and leisure industry that I've seen reported on recently.
Yes, that's true, Andy. And another interesting fact is, out of the 6 board members of Games Workshop, 3 are female and 3 are male. So they have a good balance in their board, you might say.
I'd say
that. Next slide, please.
Recent insider transactions.
Now, this is the juicy stuff.
That sounds controversial.
Well, this is brilliant. It would help if you could look at a chart of Games Workshop's price action in the last 12 months. And you could see that ticker thing, you know. Anyway, you can't, but dates go with actual events. And I think what I've been doing is watching very carefully what the board members have been doing. How many shares have they been buying or selling, and when? Those questions can make you a very successful trader investigating a company. Because looky here, right? On the 11th of February, Kevin Roundtree, the CEO, right, sold 10,000 Games Workshop shares, which at the time were priced at an all-time high of £71.98. Now, when I first started buying Games Workshop shares, I think they were £52, and I enjoyed that ride upwards, okay? All throughout February, I thought I was a genius. Kevin Roundtree sells a bunch of shares. What did he know? Why did he sell those shares? It's a bad sign if an insider in the company sells shares, right? You think, why are they selling shares? They're already earning good money. All right, the stock's at an all-time high. Why is he selling shares? Well, is it just to make more money, or is it the fact that 10 days later the market collapsed? So 10 days before the market collapsed because of the pandemic, Kevin Roundtree foresaw that coming, like Sauron looking through the ball. He could see something very bad happening and managed to evade it. So he made a massive amount of money right there by selling his shares. But you know what? He hadn't stopped there, because look, on the 2nd of March, or I might have that wrong actually. No, I think it was around the 20th of March, a month later, Games Workshop share price went all the way down to something like £36. But a few days before that, Kevin Roundtree bought back in. Now, when I saw he did that, I was like, it's a good time to buy. Kevin knows something that we don't know. And after this time has gone by, I realized he knew that Games Workshop could survive the pandemic. He looked at the accounts, he looked at what was selling, and realized that Games Workshop only had to stop production for about 6 weeks, right? So yeah,
It
I
wasn't a
followed his.
huge buyback in though. The
No, it
amounts,
wasn't.
the amounts
Well
compared to how
spotted.
much he sold, it was only a little bit, really, by
Well
his
spotted, Andy.
standards.
Now, but it wasn't. So he basically dipped his toe in, didn't he? Right. But if you look down, I don't know if you can scroll down there, but you can see that on the same day, the 11th of February, Nicholas Donaldson sold £250,000 worth of shares. On the same day that Kevin Roundtree sold almost £750,000 worth of shares.
That
And
is
if you
true.
scroll down further, all right, the financial officer, Rachel Tong, she sold a rather large sum of shares in Games Workshop on exactly the same day.
I don't think we'll be able to scroll all the way down to that one, but you can take our word for it.
Take my word for it, she sold even more shares than Nicholas Donaldson. So 3 board members, half the board, sold a big amount of shares on the same day, 10 days before the pandemic.
Now,
And a whole,
someone who's not well versed in financial matters like me would look at that info and say, that looks a bit dodgy. Is that entirely legal? And
yes,
I'm sure people out there with more knowledge on the subject than me would say, yes, it's perfectly legal unless the following factors apply.
it's actually perfectly legal. A lot of directors and board members get paid. They get paid, of course, but they also get stock options. So basically, it means that if the company likes them, they will offer them something like, I'm just making this number up, but let's say £50,000 worth of shares in Games Workshop, but they're not allowed to sell them for 3 years. And if they leave the company within 3 years, then they can't have those shares. So it's an incentive to stay, right? Otherwise, people will be jumping ship left, right, and centre all the time. So sometimes offering shares in a company is a way of keeping a good team together, right? And so after a set amount of time, you can sell those shares. So if we do so, the only stipulation is they have to be declared. Any transactions within a company have to be declared legally, and that is public information that anyone can see those trades happening.
So, with my
So
knowledge of watching legal dramas on TV, then something along the lines of, if the information you're reacting to settle your shares is public knowledge, then there can't be an issue. But if it's something that you're party to that the general public aren't, then it would be some kind of legal issue. I think I'm in the right ballpark with this.
yes, if you start spreading rumours that there's something bad happening in the company that you're working at, and there's suddenly all the shareholders start selling their shares, you can get really properly done for that.
Or if you were in a board meeting, for example, with a potential investor, and somebody fell off their chair, just made a complete idiot of themselves in the meeting, and you know that this investor is going to pull out of the deal, and you quickly sneak out and sell all your shares quick because you know it's about to plummet. I think that's a bit questionable, and that's probably in the illegal zone, I would think, compared to
Yeah,
just, oh, there's a pandemic coming, look at the newspaper, better sell.
yeah, you can't really do it like that. You have to fill in a form first, right? But I suppose, one way of making everyone sell their shares could be to show them the old version of Nagash model and say, this is a brand new miniature we're bringing out. What about that?
I think that would actually push the share price through the roof because everybody loves that model.
Right, well, that's hopefully that's interesting as well. Is there any more slides there?
Well, if you thought that was interesting, what about 70 pages of Games Workshop's annual financial report? So
we won't go through it all.
We won't go through it, but you know what we're going to do? We're going to just blindly scroll up and down, randomly stop somewhere and read a sentence to see how exciting it is. Okay, here we go.
Good stuff, usually in the first few pages, by the way.
Here we go. The group has elected not to recognise right-of-use assets and lease liabilities for short-term leases that have a lease term of 12 months or less and leases of low-value assets. There you go. 70 pages condensed into one sentence for your convenience. If you want to read the whole thing, then you can find it somewhere.
You can. Andy, go to that first page with those numbers. I just want to let you all know something. Games Workshop make money from 4 different sources of income.
Financial highlights.
Yes. What are those 4 sources of income? How do they make money, Andy?
Well, let's see. This probably isn't what you're talking about then. I'm not seeing it broken down into sources here.
There's clues in there, but
royalties receivable there.
Right. So what are royalties?
That is when outside sources are using their IP, for example, and they've negotiated a percentage to come back to them.
You did well at school, didn't you, Andy? I can tell. You're very good, very astute. Yes. The most recent, well, I say most recent, but the most up and coming source of income for Games Workshop is royalties from basically leasing or lending their characters for other products. So it could be for computer games, for film rights, television rights. Obviously, the up and coming Netflix series called Eisenhorn, based on the 40k character, is something that Games Workshop will be getting money for. All the video games as well. That's one way of making money. All right. Now, what are the other 3? The first and most obvious one is their shops, right? So Warhammer shops. What's the other one? Or the other 2?
The other 2.
Yes. So we've got their IP or their characters, right? We've got the actual Warhammer shops.
Presumably online sales then are going to be one of the others that you're alluding to here. What's the 4th then?
Very good, Andy. Very good. Yeah, online sales. And the 3rd one.
4th one.
4th one.
Go on then.
Independent retailers. So you can buy Warhammer products, okay? Not just from Games Workshop shops, but from other online gaming shops, right? You've probably heard of a bunch of them. Andy, you were endorsed by one at some point, weren't you? Element Games, right? Stock Warhammer stuff. So that's an independent trader.
By an incredible coincidence, your struggles to get that word out coincided with a bit of lag on the video chat as well. So it cut you off just before you'd had that stutter. So it like doubled up.
Eric League, you're my man. So glad that the Andy and Rem show are back on a regular basis. Great work, guys. He's donated £5. Oh, bless you, man. That's actually, I won't see any of that.
That sent Andy Industries stock prices to an all-time high, that donation. Although I don't know if you've been keeping an eye on the scrolling news bar, Mr. Remington, but if you just keep your eye on it, something new popped up on there a few minutes ago. So you might want to keep your eyes peeled. It's quite a slow scroll though, so it might not get to it for a while. However, I think we've had enough of this financial talk. Let's get the audience back on board now with some painted miniatures from the Discord server. And this is from Fluke Skywalker on Discord, and it's clearly rats. Mr. Remington, what do you think of this? It's deliciously brown.
It's really good, man. It's nice to see the Skaven war machine so close up, and you can really see the action. You can see these guys, they're working so well together as a team, aren't they, to deliver such nice things.
And it still looks lovely, even though we've been traumatised by Skaven from trying to finish Vermintide on hard mode for the last few months. And the last episode, actually, is our best performing episode yet. It's got twice as many viewers as usual.
Wow. Is that because we completed a level, maybe?
It might be. Also, I've changed the thumbnail style as well, so it's actually got gameplay footage as the thumbnail now instead of just our faces. So that might draw in a more casual audience. And I'm also making my video titles a bit more clickbaity from now on as well, because that's the way you have to go in this world.
That last one was phenomenal.
So you should be seeing that. You should be seeing that headline popping up shortly on the news feed. You might want to take note of it.
A lot of independent retail stock traders tuning into this show because of the thumbnail you created. But yeah. And if you like talking about the shares of Games Workshop and stuff, I'm thinking of making my own channel about it. No one else is, so why not? If that interests you, it interests me. I didn't think tonight I was pretty tired, but Andy, you showed me those slides I sent you at 6 a.m. this morning, and I just went on a rant there.
You've been financially rejuvenated.
I've been financial, but my research hasn't just been for nothing. I've made 50% return in 6 months.
If you eventually cash out, at the moment it's just theoretical.
If it's just on paper, innit? This is interesting. What's this? This is
going to be some.
Forest of Rem?
This is some unit bases, presumably for Kings of War, that was presented on Discord by Darb.
I love this.
Those will be 2 regiment bases that will then go together in some games to become a horde. And very nice cave entrances there. Nice crystal formation, mushrooms. Very tasty indeed, in fact.
Andy, do you prefer with Kings of War, and if you don't know what we're talking about, you have blocks of units, which might be composed of 15, 20 or 30 models, right? And instead of having 30 models, you can have things in the block that represent troops or just a sort of a unit filler, right?
Yes.
So do you prefer unit fillers, or do you like to see the exact number of troops represented?
I'm not a fan of the exact number of troops because I think it looks too crowded. I don't like seeing miniatures like touching each other elbow to elbow like you used to get in the Warhammer days. I like there to be slightly less than the actual number that's supposed to be represented. But the guidelines around winning prizes at tournaments are sometimes based on how many models you have in the unit as well. For example, if you went to an official Mantic event, you would want at least 75% of the models represented if you wanted to win, for instance, their Best Army Award or the highest placed Mantic army to win a flight around the world. So they'll incentivize people to put lots of models on the unit, but you still don't need to go to 100%.
Right, and that blocks some people from literally just buying 10 models and spreading them out.
It blocks some people from doing it. It doesn't block everybody. There are people that do that.
I love this base, man. This could be great for my night goblins.
And these are for ogres, apparently.
Well, that's
going to look nice.
How many ogres can you fit on that?
I think each one of them would have to hold 6.
Okay.
So you could probably get away with 4 or 5 on there instead. So next, this is from Darb as well, and this is the start of what appears to be some kind of war mammoth. And I'm not sure if it's an actual resin miniature or whether it's maybe 3D printed or something like that. He's in the chat now, so he can let us know. But very tasty start that's been made there. You can see some green stuff work to create some hair on the leg, by the looks of things. Are you a fan of mammoths?
Yeah, woolly ones. Yeah, it looks. I like the. Yeah, I was choosing some carpet today for my new room where I'm going to be living. It looks very much like the fur that's on his kneecap there.
Well, there you go. Some ideas there from Remington Industries. Head out into the wild, skin all the remaining woolly mammoths that are in the world. Oh dear, it's fallen down already. This one.
So what's this for? Is this for?
This is from a Kickstarter apparently, and presumably that's going to go into his Kings of War ogre army as
well. Like it.
Next, so these are from Dino Titan Edition, and these are Mantic zombies. Very nice. They're put on round bases, so I'm not sure what they're going to be used for. I don't know if
I know these very well. I painted about 45 of these.
I've painted many a Mantic zombie in my time, and I combined them with bits from the Mantic ghouls as well, because they're virtually very compatible. Almost perfect.
Put myself out on a limb here with your Mantic friends, Andy, but I think these are the best zombie models ever made.
A case can definitely be made. It depends exactly what you classify as a zombie, though. There are lots of companies that do things that are zombies technically, but in terms of mass battle fantasy zombies, I think you're probably correct there, because they're definitely better than GW's like giant-handed zombies.
Yeah, they looked a little comedy. I'm not saying I don't like the GW. I do kind of like them, but the for the value you get with these guys, you get like enough parts to build so many zombies in a box that's like, I don't know, 20 quid. It just takes so long to put them all together because so many options. But they're really fun to paint as well. And you can get them looking good with not so much effort. These look great.
Got one more thing to look at on here. Oh, and what do you know? It's a shameless plug for the Andy and Rem Show logo Redbubble page, which you can find in the video description. And look at all these top-notch products.
I like that baseball 3/4 sleeves, man. That's good. So you could be wearing these to RemCon.
Good, when RemCon comes back. And look how happy everyone is to be wearing all this stuff. Look how thrilled they are. You could get the Andy and Rem Show mini skirt, get the Andy and Rem Show transparent sticker, iPhone case, artboard print, clock.
This is great. How does it work then? Do you have to pay postage as well?
I can't remember. I haven't ordered anything from Redbubble personally for a while, but I think there probably is a fee on top of it for postage. But if you order multiple items at once, that's probably used. There's also bundle deals if you wanted to order several pillows or cushions at once. And look, we've even got added recently children's clothes as well with the logo. In case you've got a small child who wants to represent the Andy and Rem Show when they're heading back to school at some point to become the coolest kid there.
I've been told, Andy, by people that have bought product that the quality is actually really good.
The mug is a very top-notch product, let's believe.
So can people get this stuff like worldwide?
Why, yes, they can, in fact. I don't know if there's any countries that can't get it. I don't know of any. I believe everyone has access to these fine products. Brad says, using my mug right now. There you go, that's commitment. Commitment to the show.
Put it in the chat which product you would buy. If you had to buy one, right, and it didn't cost you anything, you wanted one, which one would you want? Which one would you want, Andy?
Well, I would be leaning towards the clock maybe, or I really like the coasters and the cushion actually, or the throw pillow as it's called on here. I'm very tempted to just get one of those. And then for my backdrop, I'm really tempted to get, let's see, there's some kind of big...
Oh, what about the Andy and Rem Show shower curtain behind you?
That is nice as well, but there's a big poster or canvas or something. I'm not sure if it's on this page. Oh, there we go, canvas. Something like that to put on the wall behind me. I'm very tempted by my backdrop.
Bat Zuka says he would get the tank top. That's a good choice, my man. How are your guns looking? Hopefully you've got your guns buff.
Let's see.
Stu Gibson is considering a throw pillow for the sofa in his new hobby room. That's amazing. Stu, if you get that, please take a picture of you and your harem on the cushions. Brad Jimenez is looking at the duffel bag. That's amazing. Wouldn't it be good if Andy just sent you one of these for free? Wouldn't that be cool?
Wouldn't that be great?
Eric Lee says mask and bag of holding.
Well, there is no
What
bag of
about-
holding, I'm afraid.
Can we get an Andy and Rem flesh wand?
I don't know if Redbubble do that kind of thing, but I'm sure I can send them an email and pull some strings and get it added. Maybe the haunted flesh puppet as well. So,
Which product would you use every day?
there you go. And anyone who does buy a piece of merch as well, let me know and you'll get a character named after you in the Forest of Rem. And the size of the parts of that character will be determined by the value of the items. If you buy a sticker, maybe you'll get just a background goblin. If you buy the ridiculous £100 bedspread, then you'll probably be a god that lasts the entire series that has to do battle with Remington on a weekly basis. So,
It's turned you grey, hasn't it, Andy?
wisdom hairs, not greys. So, let's move on to the #1 rated segment in internet history. Well, second actually, because I think Forest of Rem is first. But we've got What the Hell Is That coming up. It should only be a really quick one, because there's only 2 items, 2 miniatures represented. So, let me get the video fired up here.
What the hell is that? What the hell is that? Is it a chaos dwarf or a vampire bear? Oh, what the hell is that? What the hell is that? Oh, what the hell is that? What the hell is that? Only Andy and Remington, Andy and Remy, Andy and Remington know. What the hell is that? What the hell is that? Is it Sigmar's beard or Neferata's hat? Oh, what the hell is that? Oh, what the hell is that? Is it a mangled squig or a sorcerer's rat? Only Andy and Remington, Andy and Remy, Andy and Remington know.
And here we go, everyone. Look at that. It's a strange looking item. It contains 2 miniatures from the Age of Sigmar range, and I've got their names written on this piece of paper in front of me right here, just in case I were to forget somehow, with only 2 of them. And what are they? What the hell is that? Someone should get this rapidly.
Is the fan? Is the thing on the left a fan for keeping yourself cool?
It's not.
Okay.
It might keep someone cool, as in they look cool, but in terms of keeping you cool temperature-wise, definitely not. It would not have that effect whatsoever.
Brad says, is it a Caradron Admiral Hammerhead?
Yes, it is, in fact. The item on the left is from the Caradron Overlord's Arcanaut Admiral. It's his hammer. But what is on the right attached to it? Fiendishly. Whatever it is, it's beautifully edge highlighted. I think we can all agree.
Yeah, well, John Mazur, hello, John. Bastillodon Ark of Sotek on the right.
It is not.
Oh, it's good
I can see where you're going with that, but it's not. Roshi says, just passing by, we'll watch tomorrow, cheers. Good. It's nice to know some people watch it after the fact as well, even though you miss out on the live interactive experience, which is, of course, where about what percentage of the excitement would you say comes from watching it live?
Yeah, most of it. You're missing out there. But, I thought this episode is the most informative of any of the episodes I've ever been on. I think so.
Let's go with that.
Andy's looking doubtful, but yeah. Is it an extreme close-up? Because it looks like it could be like a bombshell tip or a shield. But maybe it's like edge highlighted.
It's kind of a close-up, but it is a large model as well, which I can confirm now, which might be a bit of a giveaway.
I was going to say, is it the knee of a witch elf?
It is not a witch elf's knee.
Knee pad, okay.
It's far bigger than a witch elf.
The comments have dried up here. I think everyone's just bamboozled at my financial education.
Is everyone stumped by this?
Dicey Guy, hello Dicey, says, is it a giant?
It's not. You know what? I don't think anyone's going to get this, at least not in good time, so I'm just going to reveal what it is right now. The right button to press that won't destroy the whole show. Here we go. There you go, it was the Admiral, and it is a star drake. Look, it's that nicely edge-highlighted bit right at the point of the chest plate there.
That's so hard, Andy. Come on.
Fiendishly difficult, that one, perhaps.
Yeah, because that's like a paint job rather than the model, you know?
Well, I thought someone would have got it still. Disappointed in the audience there. Let me down this week, folks.
Nice,
Okay.
though. Good.
It's now time for the truly #1 rated segment in internet history, which still doesn't have an official professionally recorded theme tune, so we're going to have to get Mr. Remington's cutting in and out version again.
Well, I'm going to just sing it a cappella, because then it won't cut out, will it? Because there's no other instrument apart from
In
my voice.
theory. So, let me just fire up the Forest of Rem logo here. There we go, look at that. So, would you like to deliver the theme tune?
Ooh, just getting my tuning on. In the Forest of Rem, in the Forest of Rem, where boys become men in the Forest of Rem. Is it a chicken or is it a hen? With Andy as the DM in the Forest of Rem.
Forest of Rem indeed. Now, you may recall last week Mr. Remington got into a little bit of a dance-off with a goblin, decapitated it with his legendary dance move, the 360, and was then escorted onto a voyage of personal inner discovery into his past to conquer the future by the mysterious Swamp Hag, who has now left him at the window of what appears to be his childhood home, looking in through the slightly frosted, chilly glass. See his family seated around the table, including his little cousin Timothy, who is a bit on the small side and is not in the best of health. And Mr. Rem, how would you like to interact with this potentially heartwarming but also potentially heartbreaking childhood scene as you attempt to learn the lessons of the past to conquer the Remington descendant who has been revealed to be seeking your very life essence?
Yeah, this sounds really serious. I thought this was going to be a light-hearted episode. So I've just bumped into someone that says they're my relative.
No.
So I've just seen two children playing. What do I do?
You've been informed that your descendant is attempting to harvest your life force, and that's why all these creatures you've been coming across have told you that you're the one that sent them, because it was a Remington that sent them.
Oh, right. Okay.
He's weakened in the future, and he's trying to harvest your life juices so he can strengthen himself, because the Remington life force is unique, and he needs it from one of his ancestors, and he's chosen you.
Where is he?
He's in the future. But to get to him, you've been told you must go on a voyage of inner discovery through the past.
Is it a dimly lit pass?
It is quite dimly lit. It's very, very foggy around the outskirts, and then it's lighter by the house. It's as if your memory of this area only focuses in on the parts that you can actually remember.
Well, as this is a fantasy adventure, there's only one way forward, and that is venture into the darkness of my future or the darkness of my past, and confront my future self with a song.
So you're going to sprint into the darkness instead of look through the window at your childhood?
Actually, that sounds quite intriguing. Yes, let's have a little peek through the window, shall we?
Okay, as you peek through the window, you remember a time that you've mostly blocked out from your mind when your little cousin Timothy was not so well. And in fact, he's coughing at the table. He's got his little crutch. He's hobbling around the stove, looking for some morsels of food, but there's nothing on the fire. Because old Papa Remington's boss will not give him Christmas bonus this year. It's a very sad scene.
That is a sad scene. Do I remember what happened next?
Well, it's a little bit cloudy, but you don't think it ends well for little Timothy Remington. So perhaps this could be your opportunity to head in there and change the past.
Maybe I became so hungry that I had to eat my little brother.
Your little cousin.
My little cousin.
So you're thinking that's what?
I'm gonna tap on the window. That'd be interesting, wouldn't it?
Okay. Would you like to roll the dice and then tell me whose attention you're trying to get? Because around the table, there's little Timmy Remington, there's little you, your past self, there's Papa Remington and Mama Remington as well.
Okie dokie. Let me just find some dice. There's so many dice, but I don't. Yeah. We're opening a new pack of dice. The new dice. There we go. You see, it's not been tampered with.
Yes.
Okay, here we go. Remington, tap, tap. I rolled a 6.
And whose attention are you trying to attract?
Timothy. No, Papa Remington. Let's confront my father.
Okay, Papa Remington, the large fellow that he is, but he looks a bit downtrodden because of his financial worries. He makes his way over to the window. He won't recognise you as his child, obviously, because you're all grown up and a travelling minstrel now, rather than a small child. He peers out the window, heaves it up, a bit of snow heads in through the window into the house, and much to the alarm of Mama Remington, who tells him to close that window, but he kind of waves away her protests with his hand and then looks to you and says, "Who are you? You look familiar to me."
I'm going to say, buy Games Workshop shares.
He looks back at you, puzzled, but makes a small note, because you did roll a 6 after all.
Maybe I'll grow up as a millionaire now, right? I've just changed the future.
So, he writes out the note, puts it into his pocket and looks back to you, extends a hand, offering to shake it.
Just for fun, I'm going to give him the flesh puppet hand.
Very well. So extend the flesh puppet hand and roll the die.
Okay.
See what effect it has touching your relative in the past with a flesh puppet.
Have I still got a tail, by the way?
You haven't lost anything, so yes.
Okay. Check in. Oh, it's another 6.
Well, Papa Remington extends his hand, touches the flesh puppet, grasps it in a slightly more comfortable looking way than that, because I don't have 2 right or left hands to simulate with. So, a blinding light fills the area. It's not dimly lit anymore. However, you notice that in this handshake you can feel through the flesh puppet that the fingers of Papa Remington seem to be swelling up slightly, but not with flesh, with gold jewellery. It seems that perhaps he took your advice and became a multi-millionaire in the old world. The house, the small little house, transforms into a large palace as you continue to shake his hand, and in your sack you find that your mandolin has become much more magnificent, diamond encrusted with marble inserts into the wood. It's quite a fine instrument now, not the shoddy piece of timber that you were heaving around with you previously. However, one thing in the scene changes. At the table, tiny Timothy is still there, looking much more healthy, might I add, with doctors seeing to his every need. But there is no sign of young Remington, which is something for you to ponder on as you slowly fade into the next scene. Would you give any parting words to Papa Remington at the window?
Buy Apple shares.
Okay, you've given him another piece of advice. That's risky. Would you like to roll the dice?
It was either Microsoft or Apple. I went with Apple. Yeah. It's a 5.
That's still pretty good. Papa Remington, hearing your words, clearly invested wisely in the local orchard business, which began to boom as all other fruits suffered a terrible plague, which you remember from your childhood. However, Papa Remington was right there to invest in those apples, and your mandolin gains an extra ruby inserted in it. It's even more fine and magnificent than before.
So my real name is Remington.
Yes.
I like it. It's like Gary Neville, the footballer. His father is called Neville.
Exactly like that, yes.
Remy Remington.
At this
I
point,
like that.
you find yourself in what appears to be a graveyard. Overlooking a grave. All it says is Remington on it. You know not which Remington speaks of.
Maybe it's Timmy Remington.
Well, he seemed to be doing all right, actually. But there are mourners around. And there's quite a few of them, actually. There's quite a crowd gathered. They don't seem to be laughing. They seem to be quite sad, in fact. And it is dimly lit, obviously. There's just a bit of moonlight shining down onto the one grave with Remington etched into it. How would you like to react to this scene?
I'm going to kneel down and pay my respects. I'm going to say a little prayer for whichever Remington it belongs to.
Well, you may utter your prayer out loud for the audience's approval, and then they will rate it out of 6 to see what you rolled on the dice, to determine how worthy you are of some kind of holy blessing.
Dear Lord of change and consequence and destiny, please accept this humble prayer from this lowly servant, standing before your threshold, intoning the name of Remington. Which Remington is by your side in the Garden of Paradise? Please tell me, and please let me know that you'll shelter them and take them under your wing, and make sure you don't forget the Remington that's still alive right here, paying his respects. And if you ever need anything, just let me know. I'm right here.
You done?
Thanks. Yes.
Okay, first of all, which god was that to? People want to know.
That I'm not sure. Maybe the one true God. I don't know. Is there a one true God in Fantasyland? Hope it wasn't the Lord of Change.
Well, I'm going to ask the audience now to rate that prayer out of 6 to determine how successful Remington was in getting through to a god. And we're then going to have Mr. Remington roll the dice after that to see which god it was that he was channeling. So, come on, audience.
People have been mentioning your beard. The Wargamers Consortium, hello. Andy is sporting a beard. That's weird.
Well, this is what happens during a pandemic. People try out all kinds of crazy facial hair.
It's looking good, Andy. Can you plait it yet?
I might be able to. I'll give that a go.
I'd like that.
It would be very dwarven, wouldn't it?
Dicey Guy says it's a 6. Will Matthews says 4.5. Void Captain Bazooka gives it a 4. Stu Gibson says it's a 5, and I believe you prayed the God of Fates. Oh God,
well, that's quite good scores people have given you there. So roll on the dice, and we'll see which god it was.
Okay, can someone just say like a god that's not gonna, make me grow another limb? Here we go. Oh God, Remington.
It's a 1. Well, Remington indeed. The onlookers at what appears to be this funeral or some kind of service are horrified and appalled as a hideous, pustule-covered arm reaches up through the earth, grabs you by the leg, pulls you down into the ground. Through the dirt and filth, you pass by a skeleton that vaguely resembles your younger self, suggesting that it could have been a result of your meddling with the past earlier, could have condemned another version of you to eternal slumber. As you are pulled down, by this rather grotesque arm, you find yourself in a chamber lit only by ever-exploding and refilling wall pustules, filling with fluorescent green ooze as they slime down the walls. The arm is joined by another arm, a couple of legs, a large belly with a mouth in it that addresses you, with rows and rows of teeth, foul breath emanating from inside it towards your face. It sounds something like this. Remington, you have reached me. How would you like to address this creature?
Hello, are you a plague bearer of Nurgle?
Close enough.
I've got a question, and this is a legit question, by the way. How come that you never see any female Nurgle followers?
The beast is stumped by that and takes out a rather grotesque, hideous stained notebook, starts to scroll down with its own hideous festering juices as ink on this parchment, stuffs it into one of its flesh folds, and then looks back at you. I'll pass this on to Nurgle management.
Hold on, are you a what do you call it? A herald? Are you a herald of Nurgle?
I am Harold the Herald.
Oh, okay. Have you ever drunk disinfectant?
No.
You ought to try that, It might be good for you. Donald Trump said it's good.
Well, you're going to have to roll the dice, but I'm going to give you a -1 for credibility based on the source that you cited there.
But it is a true source. You did say it. Right, here we go. Okay. Do they have bleach in the old world? I don't know. Let's have a go. Remington! It's a 1. That's got to be good, right?
Totally unmoved by your words. With the addition of the -1, it's actually a score of 0, which is the worst you could possibly do. The beast is totally unmoved and decides, you know what, it's so insulted by your attempted trick that it wants a fight. It puts its hands in the air kind of like this, starts swinging for you.
I'll say, I was only joking.
It's not listening, it's too late. A roll of 0 means it's a fight.
I'm a minstrel. Don't touch the face. You wouldn't hit a guy with glasses on, would you? And then I put some glasses on.
He's still not buying it. That roll was so terrible, you've got no way to talk your way out of this now. You've just got to fight him. So what are you going to use? You've got your mandolin, which is now jewel encrusted and very valuable. You've got your dagger, or you've got your sack, which is constantly overflowing. You could reach in there and see if there's anything useful.
Yes, let's reach into the sack.
Okay, roll the dice to see how useful the item is that you find.
Okay. Remington! That's a 4. That's got to be good, right?
That's not bad, but it's not great either. You find a string of onions. So it still has potential as weaponry.
Yes, because onions are very good at fighting infections. Right? They're very close to same family as garlic, and it's good for fighting off viruses and stuff. So I'm going to peel the onion. I'm going to try and evade his blows and peel the onions and flick them at him.
Okay, so because of the hand action there of peeling the onions, then I'm going to give you +1 to that roll, but you're going to have to evade his blows first, so roll for that first.
Remington! That's a 3. That's decent.
Oh, you take a little bit of a swipe, so you're not in the greatest of shape at the moment, but you're still hanging in there. You've got like all ooze and grime on one side of your face where the hand made contact, so you're not going to be hopefully going out on any dates anytime soon looking like that. But let's have the other dice roll for the onion throwing.
Onions! Onions! The 5.
That's pretty good, actually. I did give you that +1 for the peeling motion. So the first piece of onion that you peel off and you like throw it through the air like some kind of throwing star, it hits him right in the neck, squelches through the flesh and appears to lodge in the creature's windpipe. he starts gasping for air, like, what have you done? And he starts to expand rapidly. Pustules start popping, and it seems like there's some kind of blockage that you've caused. He's swelling and swelling up, and it looks like he's going to blow at any moment.
Well, hold on. Just before you blow up, my friend, could you tell me some useful information so I can carry on with this quest?
You're trying to interrogate a rapidly expanding and about to explode Herald of Nurgle.
Can you write it down quickly for me?
Well, you're going to have to roll the dice then to see if you can get any juicy information out of him before his juices just come out in general.
Here we go. And that's how you fight an infection, guys. Onions. It's a 3. That's got to be decent, right?
It's a 3. Well, he attempts, pulls out his little piece of parchment, starts scrawling on it with his foul juices again, and just hands it to you. And you might want to put it in your sack quick before he explodes.
Yeah, I better do that. And I mean, am I in a tomb? Where am I?
You're just in an underground cavern that's very...
let me guess. I've got to run through the dimly lit bit.
Are you going to try to flee by any way possible?
Yes.
Because it's into the darkness, but you can try and navigate your way out by touch before he blows.
I'm not too sure about that. I might get my dagger and sort of waft it around so I don't hit any solids.
Okay, you don't want solids in this area, so roll the dice then, see if you can navigate your way out of this pit.
Okay, sayonara, pustule boy. 3.
That's not the greatest. So as Remington swings his dagger around, he ends up catching various wall pustules that explode all over him, making him quite the sight and the stench. But he does spot an exit. However, as he's squeezing through this exit, that's kind of a thick, oozing kind of wall, he's squeezing his way out of it. The creature behind him just... You hear the pop, it explodes. The wall of hideous filth approaches, splatters against the back of Remington, coating his tail, coating his luscious locks, coating his clothing, and his sack.
Well, that's how you deal with Nurgle, guys. You need an onion bag.
And to find out how Remington gets out of this mess, because he's still not quite through this wall, and what lies on the other side, that he's been pulled into a cavern in the past. What kind of craziness could come from this? Tune in next week to find out. In fact, if you've got a suggestion for what kind of craziness lies on the other side of this hideous, grotesque wall, then tell us in the chat or in the description later.
I like it, Andy. Good. I survived to fight another day. I didn't need to fight. You see, guys, you don't need to fight every battle. You can use your wits and your brain.
And your onions.
Yes. Improvise.
So, let's get rid of Forest of Rem logo, and let's just have a quick look at the merch again before we go off the air. I'll let people just look at that while I'm going through all the usual shenanigans. So, don't forget to look at the bottom of the screen there, which will draw your attention to various things you should be checking out, such as the Patreon, the Facebook group, Discord server, and all that good stuff. The news headlines, which I hope you've been digesting as well, because there'll be all the water cooler talk tomorrow, if there are still water coolers in this post-apocalyptic age. Maybe everyone has their own water cooler now, for safety purposes. But there have been news headlines aplenty down there, most of them in some way related to Remington Industries and that company's decline. And so, my wonderful Photoshop work on this show is now not going to go unrecognised, because you're going to see the thumbnail as soon as I can find it. There we go. So get a good look at that, wrap your eyeballs around it. Remington stonks, and of course, nobody could have an arrow heading in that direction through the stock market without my expertise guiding them. So obviously, Remington, very thankful.
You're a good pupil in Remington Industries, stock brokerage.
And obviously, because there are some patrons who have pledged to such a level that they get personally thanked at the end of every video, because that's just what great people they are, then they're going to get that thank you right now. But before that, don't forget to check out all the links in the description. including, if you're buying anything from Bad Squiddo Games, there is a code down there to get a free resin chicken as well, which is still in effect. Thinking about doing that anytime soon. Feel free to jump on that. So, the following people have an extra special patronage thank you. So, I'd like to extend this thanks to Graham, Steve, Tim, Eric, Brad, Barbara, and Guy. All those people, wonderful patrons. That, Mr. Remington, would you like to say goodnight to the audience?
Good night to the audience.
And I've just muted Remington now so that he can't interfere with my final words. And all that remains for me to say is good night out there, whatever you are. Don't forget, RemCon is postponed, so you better snap up your ticket to Andy Palooza.
It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show on your screens tonight. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show for your home delight. We're talking about Age of Sigmar and anything else that is cool. Talking about Warhammer Fantasy, it's easy to learn.